Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very exciting question. So today we have a fireside chat and a very exciting topic. So ensuring blockchain network resilient with Metrika monitoring intelligence. And we have here with us Nikos. My name is Arthit. I'm the founder and CEO of RakkaR Digital. I'm going to be your moderator today. So, Nikos, would you like to give some introduction about yourself?
Absolutely. Arthit, thanks so much for having me here. It's probably the third year that I'm on this conference, and I'm amazed by how much it has grown. And it's always an honor being a speaker here. I'm the CEO and founder of Metrika, a company that is the leading company in the operational intelligence space for blockchain networks, which means that we are doing monitoring and actionable intelligence for blockchain operations, for risk, for compliance. And the goal of all of this is to enable digital assets and Web3 in the future. So what we want to do is, with all of this, provide trust and help with the adoption and the use of Web3 and digital assets at the end of the day. And it's a very tall task and a very challenging one, as you know, these days with regulation and everything going on.
Yeah, it is amazing to have you here. I'm very excited to go through all the questions with you today. So thanks for providing us the overview and your vision, your goals. My further question is, can you elaborate more about your solution? So what exactly Metrika does, and also your main target customers, and the type of data that you actually collect from the blockchain, and how does it work?
Yeah, so Arthit, what we do is we have a very unique combination of combining on-chain data with off-chain data from the nodes, plus other Web2 data that is interesting. And we combine all of that together. We create synthetics and derivative metrics. And the goal of all of this is to understand how healthy the blockchain network is at any given point in time. This has been tremendously useful over the first years of our company, helping the protocol teams that were building the blockchain networks to de-risk the launches of their mainnets, to de-risk their scaling, and de-risk their operations in general. Oftentimes, as you know, with these networks, as they decentralize at the beginning, the protocol team loses control of the network. And at that point, there is need for intelligence. There is need for tools that all the participants in the blockchain network, even at the application layer, would need to tap into so that they know what is going on at any point in time. So that is kind of our first value proposition, and how the company started was being a SaaS platform for monitoring and operational intelligence for the guys who were building the protocols themselves. Very, very soon after, what happened was that the foundations came to us and said, "You are the guys who are building all these tools for the protocol teams. Can you make those available to the community? We think there is great benefit by having operational intelligence from both the node runners, but also the applications that are running on top." And so we did that. And over time, we started getting more and more exposed to financial institutions looking into digital assets and looking into the adoption of blockchain networks. And what we realized at that point is that all of the operational intelligence and all of the de-risking that was happening is actually a very key enabler for financial institutions in risk management and compliance, so that they can increase their level of trust when it comes to digital assets, and that can help with their adoption. If you look at the use cases in financial institutions, if you look at custody, if you look at trading, if you look at stable coins, there is a key element of de-risking all the risks that you're now taking by using public blockchain protocols and getting access to this enormous kind of bucket of digital assets that has been created over time. So all in all, Metrika is probably the leading SaaS platform for risk management compliance, both on the operational side and with the protocol communities and the blockchain communities, but also with financial institutions.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Obviously, we see a lot of these solutions in traditional finance and especially banking, right? It is amazing that you're doing this for the Web3 and blockchain world as well. So far, how does the demand look like in this space? And what do you see the demand increasing in the future?
Arthit, if I may add a comment over traditional tools, I think the key difference from the past is that if you think about financial institutions and the banking environment, and it is my belief that this space can only become enormous through the financial institutions and trickling down to the verticals of the economy. But if you look at what the financial institutions have been using for risk management and compliance, most of the things that they have been managing have been internal within the firewall of the bank systems. And the few things that have been running outside are, variables around weather, around how NASDAQ is performing, where there has always been an entity that you could pick up the phone and call them and figure out what is going on and when it's going to be fixed. The key issue with decentralized networks, and I think this speaks to the heart of decentralization that we all embrace and we think it's a wonderful thing and a key enabler in blockchain networks, is that there is no one to call. There is no auditing. There is nothing. The responsibility of participating in this open economy that is being created through decentralization lies with the end user. And once somebody realizes that, then risk management and compliance becomes a very tall task at the end user to figure out everything that is going on out there, what the protocol is doing, what the community is doing, how it is behaving. For example, if one day the protocol economics change or it becomes unprofitable running nodes, the number of nodes can go down. People might start shutting down nodes. And at that point, decentralization kind of shrinks. And at that point, it changes entirely the risk profile of what you're facing. This is just an example. And I mean, you don't have to go way back. Like if you just look at Ethereum, like a few Fridays ago, right, there were 25 minutes where there was no block finalization. So in those case of scenarios, what do you do, right? So it is becoming critical. And I think that's a key difference from traditional Web2 tools, that this is an entirely new space where there are fat protocols running outside the banking system, and they need to be monitored, and there needs to be risk management and actions and mitigation so that you can guarantee the safe and soundness for your users. And that's the only way to increase trust on blockchain, I think, and make this, take it to the next level that we're all hoping for.
Yeah. That's a very good point. And I think that's the beauty of the decentralization, right? That's exactly what I thought. Banking just focused in their own entity, but now it's a new monster. And if I may, I would have a following questions on that, right? So now that we talk about the whole blockchains and the nodes and everything, it's a good thing, but the big challenge would be the size of the data. And what do you do with that size of the enormous size of data? Like how do you deal with that?
It is a very good question, and a question that I think our engineering team is always excited to kind of be battling with. But the thing with this is you have to realize what the use cases really are and how much data you need to keep and what is the usefulness of that data at any given point in time. So from our perspective, we have different types of data stores. We're storing data, and we are also extracting the value of that data. And then we roll them up over time. We create synthetics. Some of that we keep at different levels. Some of that we discard over time. But we keep the important information out of that. I believe today we're ingesting hundreds of gigabytes, if not terabytes per day on our platform. And this is not easy, right? You cannot just take a solution out there in the market and just use it as is. We had to spend considerable time and resources on building our solution by using whatever has been the best solution and stitching it together over time. Actually, I personally freak out when my engineering tells me that, every 6 months we should be reevaluating if there is anything newer that we could be doing even better, or, every year we should be looking at there is a new data store with even higher performance or things like that. But that's, I think, is the name of the game when data exponentially keeps growing, when there are new solutions in the market, and when you're a company that you want to be on the bleeding edge of your technological capabilities and what you're able to do with that data. So I think it's a continuing kind of assessment process, but it's also one where you cannot just buy one thing or adopt one solution out there and just go with it. There are, I think, thresholds that you keep kind of bumping against when it comes to scalability, when it comes to what you want to, your analytics teams, your exploration. I should also mention here that we're probably kind of super demanding users of analytics, because we have a protocol analytics team that works both with the financial institutions, but also works with the foundations and the protocols. And they're on the bleeding edge of the research. For example, with the Ethereum Foundation, we're doing work on multiple fronts. And that creates the use case where not only we need to tap into the latest data, but we also need to go back in time. We need to analyze. We need to be able to use that platform to slice and dice and explore for our own internal reasons that data. And that kind of creates an extra set of requirements that make this even more complicated, on top of what is customer facing and what the customers need.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Shout out to your engineering team. I know it's not easy.
Thank you.
And it's very challenging, but as you mentioned, they think about reevaluating like every 6 months. So that's a very, very good thing. You already touched about the use case, right? And using data analytics from the regulatory perspective, right? What do you see Metrica as the next use case in order to help monitoring from the regulatory perspective? And how do you see Metrica in a role where we can fulfill the compliance and regulatory needs, especially these days, like what just happened in Hong Kong a couple of days ago? They're moving really fast. So what do you see yourself in that aspect?
Yeah, Arthit, where I would start is that I think compliance is, the end battle. I think the first battle is risk management for financial institutions. And I think we actually need to be proactive in this industry, because as it comes to financial institutions, risk management is the core of the business. It's all about managing risk on things that consumers and customers are not aware of, and making sure that those edge cases and risks are mitigated. And I think that's where it starts. And I think to your question on what kind of Metrica is focusing on is how do we make sure that we lead on what are the types of metrics, what are the measures and controls that financial institutions should be thinking about, so that proactively they can have all the systems in place before compliance forces people to do things. And I think that's the right thing in any business that is innovative. We need to kind of lead ahead, specify and define those frameworks. Actually, our team is publishing right now on a journal the first ever framework for risk management for financial institutions. And that kind of creates, I think, and leads and opens up and educates regulators on what kind of the forward-leaning institutions are thinking is the right framework, and upon which now you're creating the ground where you can get feedback, you can get the regulators make themselves comfortable, make edits, suggestions on what this looks like. And that, I think, helps the industry move forward. And I know that, every time, if you think about it, compliance has been a reaction to some crisis that has happened in the past. I think here with digital assets and Web3, we have had our test nets and mainnets and our battleground in the crypto world for quite some time. So we can take those learnings, translate them into proper risk management. And that way, I think we can make a few steps ahead of where this needs to be.
Love that. We ourselves talk to regulators a lot. and we always talk about proactivity and mitigating the risk. But it is important, like we can't do all these if we don't have visibility of data, right? And I think Metrica absolutely nailed it and actually helped people to have visibility to data in order to do all those good things.
Thank you, appreciate it. And Arthit, the other thing as well is it's not just, I think, the availability of data. Here, what is important is how we can make the data actionable. How can we understand what do these metrics mean when we see a fork on Ethereum, or when we see that attestations are not being produced? What other things do we need to check? What are the synthetics? What are the derivatives? What are the controls and threshold values that we need to be setting? And what are the actions that are deriving from that? I think once we have that complete set and we have that complete capability, then we can say on all of the use case or on the case scenarios that we have specified there, we have some increased trust that now we can go and offer digital assets. And now a financial institution can not only offer them to consumers, but to businesses and create products on top of that. And I think that's the day that I envision, where you can go on any kind of bank in the world and open up an Ethereum account. Or if you're a business, you can get a loan based on ETH, or you can get a flexible working capital line based on data that you provide on a blockchain network. So that's what I think drives us, and we want to create all these tools that enable this level of adoption.
Amazing. Thank you. So now we talk a lot about traditional finance and the Web3 and blockchain. What are some of the development that you see from traditional data monitoring tools, like those two big ones? And how do you see the potential overlap between this traditional data monitoring against Metrica, and how can we collaborate, or what's the similarity or what the differences?
Yeah, I think it's a completely new thing that we are doing, which messes up a number of previous verticals in the Web2 space. So on the one hand, you have observability tools and analytics tools, the likes of Splunk and Datadog and so on. On the other hand, you have a number of compliance and risk management tools in traditional finance. You have a number of probably developer tools on service assurance. All of those tools, the common denominator is about risk management and de-risking the application or the asset management or the asset services that you're providing. So I think it's a space where we are adding something entirely new that leverages some of the capabilities of those spaces in the past and messes them up together with the expertise of the Web3 and the crypto space and creates something entirely new. So I think there is only opportunity in collaboration and integrating with those tools in the past, so that we can accelerate the path of the customers into Web3 and into kind of digital assets. I cannot imagine a world where the banks drop any tool that they have been using in the past to suddenly use a net new kind of tool out there. So I think what will actually help a lot with digital asset adoption and the Web3 is how fast can we integrate with all of those tools and bring our customers and extend them into new capabilities of this space.
Amazing. Love it. You already touched about visibility, and it's actually beyond that. We have to think ahead of what we must see and what is important for different types of customers. There's been a lot of AI, and machine learning lately in the data world. How do you see AI impacting blockchain monitoring, or have you already implemented some of the AI in Metrica?
Yes, that's a dear topic for our CTO and for our engineering. They've been playing around with AI, but it's still very early, I think, for our space. There are still a lot of kind of things to build and define before we reach the point where AI would be kind of a value add to our customer base. I think where AI would be extremely useful in the form it is today is once you have lots and lots of metrics, lots of risks and measures, lots of things going on, I think it can vastly simplify the user experience by answering the questions that you want to answer through the data, the correlations, and everything that is going on the platform. So definitely, it is something that we're looking at, but I don't think we're yet at the point where we have solved all of the other major problems that exist in the space, and we have a clearly defined, the risk compliance framework, all of the tools, and now we're only dealing with user experience frustration and making that a little bit easier. That said, probably this is something that I'm sure our team might one evening pull me on the side and say, let us show you what we've done here. And it might be something that might change my view, but from a roadmap priority standpoint, there are other items more pressing.
Yep, really look forward for that. And hopefully next year in this event, we're going to talk about that.
Absolutely.
I mean, your track record is impressive, right? You become like a really leading and driving this space, create a lot of values to people in the ecosystem and in the industry. What do you see competitions in this space, right? Do you just shout out, like, do you see people in the traditional data monitoring and analytic coming up to blockchain and Web3, or any other competitors that you see in this space?
I think there are very well established Web2 companies in the space, and there are also startups that are trying to find their footing into the crypto space and propagate. I think the challenge for every new company in this space is how do they find their first steps and propagate until the point they reach enterprises. And enterprises obviously includes financial institutions, includes all other verticals of in the economy. And I think you will see a very common pattern across companies where they have been, the best of them have been doing really well into the crypto space. And then after some point, they naturally kind of break through the barrier of forward-leaning enterprises wanting to get involved with crypto, digital assets, and Web3. So I think that's the very much success path of Metrika. But if you look at any other company, they are going through different paths depending on where they have set themselves in that kind of map. So I think it's very hard to find direct competitors in an industry that is kind of very early. But I do expect that at some point paths will converge, and that we will have more clear competitors out there. For the time being, I think the most of the competitors are doing some parts of what we're doing. We're doing some parts, and we're overlapping here and there. And there are well-defined Web2 competitors in each of the buckets of the past. So that's kind of how the landscape kind of basically looks like.
Okay, that's great. I think we all know, good products built during the bear market, and I'm sure people are building, new products right now. How do you see yourself, and how do you plan to stay ahead of the curve and continue to be innovative?
So we're doing a couple of things. The first thing is we are working very closely with the protocol teams. We're working very closely with a number of entities in the Ethereum ecosystem and other kind of blockchain ecosystems. And we want to continue being on the bleeding edge of what is happening with protocol developments. If you look at our dashboards, we were one of the dashboards during the Chapelle upgrade of Ethereum that the whole world was looking at. We were critical on when the outage on the Ethereum ecosystem was happening. We had the right metrics, we had the right dashboards to be informing the community. So we want to continue being on the latest developments and where the protocol is evolving. The second part is we want to be working with the leading financial institutions and the leading enterprises exploring digital assets and exploring Web3. And we want to be adding our expertise and quickly evolving our tools so that we can cover and enable all the use cases that they're working on. And in that respect, we are also leading in terms of defining what the risk management and compliance frameworks are looking for those use cases. And we want to be proactive. We want to be educating the regulators. We want to be laying out frameworks out there to get reactions and get feedback, as we have been doing. I'm very privileged to be a member of the Technology Advisory Committee of CFTC, and I'm trying with that role as well to do the right thing and do public service and educate CFTC and provide recommendations on what we should be doing next. So we're pushing on all the fronts, both in terms of the protocol world and the evolution of those protocols, but also the evolution of the regulatory frameworks and the needs of the financial institutions as they enter the digital asset space.
Amazing, amazing. I just saw the time warning. We have around 4 minutes left, so this is probably going to be the last question. And it's really a big topic these days, I would say. You know, people are very concerned about data privacy, security, and integrity of the data right now, right? How do you ensure that these elements, data privacy, security, and integrity actually, perform and kept very securely from the data management and data analytic perspective?
From our perspective, all of our community, a lot of our community tools are public out there. So this increases the transparency in the ecosystem, and that is data that is readily available for the community to consume. A lot of the data that we provide to our protocol teams are data that are operational in their nature, so there is no privacy on that data. There is no personal identifiable information or any other kind of sort of. This is kind of basically network data and network information. But then when it comes to financial institutions, there are items, and obviously there are items that have to do with the subscriptions of the users and other kind of settings and preferences on the platform. It's not any type of sensitive data like social security numbers or any kind of that. So, but even with that, we have to comply with a number of security requirements, which we've been doing on our platform, as any kind of proper SaaS platform would be doing in that space. But my point, Arthit, is that there isn't anything kind of exceptionally sensitive in our platform that kind of warrants any kind of special treatment. I think we just need to follow, and be on the cautious side, particularly when dealing with financial institutions, on what the best SaaS platforms are doing out there.
That's great. That's great. So sourcing data in is very important as well. I'm just being cautious of the time. Perhaps we have one more question that we could do, right? So I just learned that from the news that you just attract investment in the extension round. What is your plan to, and congratulations on that, right? What is your plan to utilize the funding?
Thank you. We were very happy to have Microsoft and M12 invest in our company alongside Nikos. I think what this round does during a crypto winter is accelerate the build out of our tools. We see that this is the perfect opportunity for us to keep building even faster and be ready for the next cycle of the economy with even greater force. I think as entrepreneurs, what we always kind of are thinking is this the right time to accelerate? Do we see enough? Do we see the front runners out there when the whole world is kind of a little bit afraid? And can we be doing more? And I think we've been lucky enough to have and be attracting investors that see the same opportunities that we see out there. And that is kind of what we're going for. Enterprise adoption, institutional adoption is the next frontier. I know it's challenging, but I think there is a lot going on. We've already had a few crises with FTX and a number of other things that happen. So I think we're all waiting for the next kind of development and expansion of this space. So that's what we are gearing towards.
Yep, this is amazing. This is very inspiring, really, Nikos. Please continue what you're doing and continue to be innovate. It's really a pleasure for me today to talk to you and share this session with you.
Likewise, Arthit. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the excellent discussion.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.